This region around the Great Lakes has been called the heartland. When it comes to agriculture, there's hardly an area in the world that compares.
Everybody, just hold on. I don't know what we're going to have here.
There's a lot of self-proclaimed geniuses out there that know the national yield, but they're all wrong.
Manage money, piling in.
Double digits higher.
So at this point, we're in kind of uncharted territory.
There's a lot of money on the sidelines.
So that was a crazy one.
That's what brings the viewers back. That a boy.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the AgYield War Room podcast. I'll be your second favorite backup host, Rylan Texter. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them in the chat below. We'll try to get to them during the show. Overnight market sharply lower here. Brian, what do you got for us?
Yeah, overnight gap lower overnight. We got Sep corn down 13 at 4.51 and a quarter. August beans down 31 at 12.17. Sep Chicago wheat down 3 at 6.75. Looks like there could have been some profit taking, with the current rally. Also some, rain in the forecast. So the model's a little bit changing a little bit here, but still pretty dry out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of a pause to the fighting over the weekend here between the U.S. and Iran. So I think, obviously, crude market just gapped lower. We were gapped about $5 lower here overnight, and it seems to be bleeding into the grains here, with this kind of sharp decline. I mean, I think the question everybody's got right now is like, is this it? Is this going to be kind of a little bit of a near-term top here, or are we just kind of trading the headlines? Because of the pause in fighting. It didn't really look like there was much out of, the Strait of Hormuz as far as headlines go. It didn't look like there was really anything as far as the Black Sea went. I mean, I know there was some confusion as to if some Russian wheat ports were only operating at certain time frames last week. It seems like a lot of the noise got kind of cleared up a little bit from last week. So, I mean, I know Justin's been talking about it for a while, but obviously we're coming into that time frame in the year where it's really difficult to be long this market. You're just going to see sometimes some of these changing weather patterns. We're at a volatile time frame for, the news, obviously. On the upside, though, there were some sales announcements. It looks like 132,000 metric tons of soybeans sold to China, and then another 126,000 metric tons of soybeans sold to unknown. So still doing a little bit of business here. So, I mean, it's hard to say. I think, Brian, would you be looking at this as just from a trading standpoint now, more of a buying opportunity or a hedging opportunity?
Yeah.
Or are we just sitting back? Buy, sell, or hold, man? What are you thinking?
I know, right? I mean, the whole thing that we've been preaching, is balance. You really need balance in this market, and that's what you strive for. So you can kind of take some of these lumps along the way. I think there's still a lot of weather that we still need to get through, in some critical time frames here. So, if you're still at pretty good, decent levels, even with a little bit of a break here today. But I think the key is, get to that point where you're comfortable that you can withstand some of these moves. Me personally, I think it was a profit-taking area over the weekend, where it leads to believe that maybe there is an option or an opportunity maybe to get long into this market again.
Yeah, absolutely. And manage money being long, as we confirmed last week, pretty active buyers last week. I mean, it looks like they bought 50,000 corn, 52,000 beans. So they're still carrying a pretty big net position, but obviously if you can flip 50,000 at a clip in a week,
Right.
in both places, I mean, it doesn't look to be that monster of a position. Maybe the time frame in the year, we've seen this before seasonally. It's July. I mean, we're coming into August. Obviously the forecast is really going to be what we're focused on, but it seems like we're just getting a little bit more of headline trade, just in general, with all the geopolitical situations that have been developing. So, who's to say what the next headline's really going to bring here, if it's just going to reinforce this move lower, or, if we've kind of done enough damage. But it did look like there was maybe a little bit more rain in the forecast starting to develop here, some model disagreements as well. Looked like there was a little bit of precipitation kind of getting over some areas that kind of needed it in the Midwest. We're talking Iowa, we're talking Illinois. The Eastern Belt seems to be like they've got a little bit of precipitation in the forecast this week as well. Obviously very hot for the next 2 days, but it seems to pare back a little bit. I mean, what are your thoughts about the weather here? kind of going forward? Have you seen those? Have you been following the forecasts at all going forward?
Yeah, it looks like they are putting some more rains into the forecast here. We got to see what they materialize or not, and what are the quantities. You can put all the rain you want, but if you only get half an inch, that's not going to cure the needs that you need. So always changing models. The U.S. versus the euro has been kind of conflicting each other, so we'll see how that all kind of pairs out. But I mean, again, you still have two active wars going on. Those straits are completely, almost to a standstill. I think you're, getting to almost the bottom of the reserves here. So a lot still can change here, with the Houthis getting involved in closing off Saudi Arabia, moving their oil. So it's still a hotbed. I think there's still a lot to get through. And, weather is going to be on everyone's mind. So we just got to keep watching those models. But again, I think balance is the key to get through all this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, just taking a survey from some of the growers last week that I deal with, seemed like everybody was kind of hanging on. That was the general consensus from kind of the I-State crowd that I was talking to, but not in dire need of rain, but starting to get there. I mean, what was the tone in some of the growers that you were talking to? I mean, it sounded like, you talked to the guys in the east, they're feeling pretty good. Last week, talked to several guys, they had just gotten an inch of rain up, kind of that southeast Iowa region. So, I mean, it's not all for naught. It's not all doom and gloom right now, but yeah, you can tell the Western belt's definitely hurting from the guys that I'm talking to. Just haven't really received much lately and still could use a little bit more. So, I mean, are you still getting that? Have you been getting that impression last week? I mean, what were your growers saying?
Yeah, I mean, especially, in the plains and in the Western Belt, like you said, really hot and dry here. It looked like there might have been a derecho that ran through the weekend. I didn't got any really details on exactly if it was damaging with winds or not there. But like Justin has mentioned in the past war rooms, you need everyone to participate to get record yields. I'm not seeing that. Last year you had the fringes in the plains, great and getting great yields. You had the Western Belt. You couldn't tell the irrigated from the dry land. You're not getting that this year. So I still think, to get to trend line 183, you definitely need those rains because, the amount of rains people got in June, it's 12 to 15 inches, and then you shut the water off for a period of time here, that crop never got a root system going. So if it really shuts off, it could really take off the top here, but we'll see if this forecast holds where they're adding more rain. So we'll see how it plays.
Yeah, there was some chatter amongst us over the weekend on our group chat just about, some pretty reputable organizations kind of flipping from generally being more bearish the market to a little bit more of a bullish posture. And I think their case really being made was one, the kind of crop health right now up into this point of the U.S. crop, but also in Europe. France obviously struggling here. You've heard some anecdotal reports that the East China's crop looking pretty good here. You got South America that's getting up to Brazil is about 60% harvested now. So I mean, like, it seems like there is, a little bit of confusion, I think, is which one to focus on at this point. But obviously, the European crop just being in really poor health right now is seems to be the basis for that argument. I mean, do you think that that's really going to be the headline that we trade later, or is it going to start to flip more back to South America? I mean, I got to think South America coming online very quickly is going to start to steal the show pretty quick. But that's my opinion right now, at least. I mean, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think exactly. I mean, they're going to have a crop and we're going to have a crop. There is going to be a lot of production out there. We've gone into great demand. We see it continuing. We see China is in our market, which is great to see on the beans. You still got that 17 billion, meatball hanging out there that Besson said after the Beijing meetings that China was going to be in for more U.S. ag product. You haven't seen any of that. And I don't think the market's anticipating that's ever going to come through. So if you ever do see them come in, if, China does run into this typhoon season with the super El Nino this year too, as well, if they get really damaging, rains, they could be coming in sooner than later for, maybe corn, sorghum, maybe some soft red and some beef. So, a lot can change. It's going to be very volatile going forward. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we got a couple minutes left here, Brian, so I'm going to throw it back over to myself to go over the livestock here. So, big livestock news over the weekend. Friday, Secretary Rollins announcing that the U.S. border will open to feeder cattle imports in 30 days. Now, this is on top of several reports. We had the cattle on feed report, which pretty neutral here, just coming out right at where the analysts were expecting, 102 for on-feed inventory, placements 97, marketing's 97, no big deal. Then we pushed up the cattle inventory report. Instead of being at the very end of this month, it was on Friday. So you got that report as well, starting to show the beef herd inventory starting to creep up here. I mean, we just saw the little bit of an increase in all cattle and calf numbers this year, and the largest kind of uptick since 2018. So, I mean, obviously not big numbers. There was really no indication of herd expansion here on the inventory report. I think that was the big fear kind of going in. Obviously, that's going to be a narrative that starts to change over the next several months, but we are obviously on this massive break right now. We're seeing a lot of the premiums kind of come out of the market here in general. So I don't know if the market already kind of had a sense that this was going to happen or not, just because we were on this break, but you're going to throw the phase reopening of the U.S. border into this mix as well. So it looked like Douglas, Arizona is going to be the first terminal really to open. That's one of the bigger ones. And then that's going to open here in the next 30 days to feeder imports. So this is going to happen really quickly. I guess the screwworm situation, I guess now that it's in the US, in Texas and Mexico, and cases from what I've seen, still around 40 to 50 cases, just kind of hanging out there. Not many active cases at this point, but it's not really spreading as fast. So it does seem like the administration is really going to try to make good on their push to get cattle and beef prices lower here, which is kind of sad to see if this really does work. But obviously the phase reopening is going to make that pill a little bit easier to swallow, I think, at this point. But yeah, that's just, coming out on Friday here, you got to think that we're going to have a severe downward reaction to this news in general, even on top of the break that we've had. So, I mean, we've been preaching it for a long time to our clients, having PLC coverage, put coverage, just anything you really get your hands on here that looked somewhat affordable, or just to meet your revenue goals here. But obviously that's going to be the big news that we trade. That's going to overshadow both of the reports here. And then on the hog side of things, still just cannot get a reprieve. Cash markets down 277. You had cash hogs 99.37, just a big wipe. And overall, it just kind of feels like you got kind of really low production numbers right now, which is not great to see. As far as a July as getting into like this good time frame for demand. Cold storage report, I think, is going to overshadow pretty much everything. Pork and cold storage came in at 458.2 million pounds versus 418 last year. So this big jump in stocks here in pork, and big jumps in bellies as well, as 18% jump in bellies. So the old adage, if you can't sell it, you freeze it, kind of rings true here. I made that comment in my newsletter on Friday, and it does look like we've got enough supply here. I mean, it makes sense why I think the market's performed the way it does, and really why we're struggling to see any real follow through. It's been a good rally at this point, but now I think it's kind of prove me time in general. So I guess we'll see how this goes. Obviously, you're throwing a lot of kind of bad news just about every single ag market this morning here. So I would not be surprised to see just kind of weaker opening here in both hogs and cattle, just based on that alone. So I guess we'll see how it goes here. But any parting shots here, Brian, just to send everybody off?
No, well, let's see how the day rolls here. But yeah, right now it's looking like it's going to continue to open up here a little bit weaker here. So we'll see how the day, folds out.
Yeah, I mean, we got the U.S. stock market up pretty good here. We overall we got Dow up 60, was that 636, and S&P's up 60. NASDAQ up 311. So like you've got a really good performance here. So, obviously I think everybody's going to be waiting for the next headline to drop in general. So as always, that's going to be our war room here this morning. Please check out the description down below. Check out the war room report, and please give us a like, subscribe to the channel. Definitely helps us out. So we appreciate all the support. We'll be back to you guys tomorrow at the same time.
The War Room is presented by AgYield, a risk management partner of American grain farmers for over 50 years. Looking for more in-depth analysis? Check out the War Room Report. Our team's knowledge and expertise delivered straight to your inbox every weekday. Each report delivers key market-moving headlines, critical weather updates, USDA report breakdowns, and exclusive video content. All for $50 a month. And most importantly, 10% of every subscription will go directly to support the AgYield NextGen Foundation, a nonprofit investing in agricultural education and the future of farming. To sign up for the War Room Report, check out the link in the description or learn more at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.